Wellness Show, episode number 384.
Welcome to the Wellness Show, a podcast on health and wealth. I'm your host, Tyson Bannigan, the founder of the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Join me as we get the latest insight, tips, and strategies from wellness providers, coaches, and successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and much, much more. Welcome to the Wellness Show on Health, Wealth, and Enlightenment. I'm your host, Tyson Bannigan, with my co-host, Laura Cool. We're here with you for the next hour to answer all your questions on dowsing in energy healing and what's up in your life and what's up on planet Earth. And today, the topic is divine marriage. Wow, it was such a hot topic last time. We just blew out the circuits and we crashed and burned. So we only had part of the recording. So this time we're going to see how far we can get through this whole thing, talking about divine marriage. But that doesn't mean you can't phone in. It doesn't mean that you can't ask us questions. It doesn't mean that you can't have a healing or a clearing. So if you're in the middle of some transformation and you'd like some help, we're here for you for the next hour. You can phone in toll free in North America, 1-866-369-7464. And someone was saying, how can I phone in internationally? Well, you can do it through the WhatsApp. I know I have to give you permission, but you phone on WhatsApp 251 for Canada, 250-803-2480 on WhatsApp. And you can then come in and ask your questions internationally. Otherwise, you can always type in your request or your question in the chat underneath where you're finding a broadcast of the show, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on Facebook. The primary Facebook page, I think there's 2 or 3 pages that were being broadcast to. The primary one, 2 of them are Dowsing and Energy Healing closed Facebook group. If you're not a member of that, I suggest you become a member. Of lots of content there, lots of activity. We're closing in 4,000 to up to 4,000 members. We're just about there. I think we have another 100 to go to the big 4,000. And also on YouTube, there is a 1,000, I think, 0.2 now. So thank you for being part of our tribe. And if you want to help us grow our tribe, you can share the broadcast today through your network and receive a backstage pass, which lets you come in the back end here. You get your questions answered first. And also, if we think that you are absolutely brilliant, which I'm sure you are, you can join us live right beside us as a co-host and ask your questions that way. So that's the privilege of sharing. And even better, if you have the time and you have the energy, you can also broadcast it by, what is it? I can't remember what it is. What is it called? Oh, watch party. So if you did a watch party, don't forget you need to sit there and answer questions. And if you don't know how to answer the question, you can always get hold of Laura and she'll help you answer those questions. Or you can say, Laura, I want to do a watch party. Can you be there with me? And that's great. We give you many, many brownie points for that. We don't have t-shirts to give you yet, but we really do appreciate if you do a watch party. It's a great way to share your information out to your tribe and give them a benefit, that lasts, that brings about change and transformation. So that's it for now. That's how you can get a backstage pass and how you can help us grow our tribe. So without further ado, welcome to the show. So what's up with you, Laura? You were talking to me prior to the show that your mom was having dreams. What was going on?
Oh, my mom had a dream of a young man that had passed away when she was a young girl. Her brother got into a car accident with this man, and they never knew who was driving, if it was my Uncle Bill or this gentleman, and they had one of their girlfriends in the car. And so I said, Mom, do you want me to bring Uncle Bill in? Because he's crossed over now. He's been gone for a few years. And she said, well, sure. So I asked Uncle Bill to come in, and he said that the other gentleman was driving. It wasn't him. And that they were both together and had crossed over into the light and were happy, all was well. But it was his girlfriend, the man that was driving, and the other man that died. And then they had dropped off my Uncle Bill's girlfriend, and my Uncle Bill was in a coma for 2 weeks, but he survived. So,
Yeah, that's really interesting. So if you're stuck or trying to figure something out that you know karmically there's some unfinished business and you want to know what that is, and you want to talk to the other side and get it straightened out, then Laura is your person. So give us a call and see if we can get unlocked whatever you're stuck on, like who did what to whom or whatever that you just can't get past it. And you know that it's important so that you can move on with your life or resolve it for your loved ones, unfinished business. Then this is a way to do it, is to tap into those on the other side, clear it up so you can get on with your life, right?
well, and she was surprised because he was a gunner in World War II, I believe, or the war. She just kept saying the war. I'm assuming if it was in the 40s, was that World War II?
That is World War II. I'm a war baby,
Yeah,
1945, after the war.
yeah, and yeah, yeah. So he was a gunner and he made it and survived that. And then he came back and he was going to UW Whitewater, and then died in a car accident. So she was always like confused about that, as like, wow, he made it through war, as a gunner in a plane, and then came home to. And oh, and that was another thing too, is that they didn't know how the accident happened because they hit a tree and it was horrible. And I said it was wintertime. I'm right, Mom? And she's like, yeah, it was in January. And I said, I see like ice. They hit a patch of something and slid and just poof, right into the tree. Oh, like head on, bad, 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 like super fast. They were probably young and having fun and going a little too fast and enjoying themselves after the dance. And
Yeah. Oh, by the way, today's the day we dance. Yeah. And the moon cycle, the 20th day of the 28th cycle, is get out there and dance, and better to dance with a friend or in a circle. It brings through all the new energies and allows you to ground and bring in the new harmonic energies. So this is where you let the rhythm of the universe come through you. So today's dance day. So put on the music and let your hair flow and dance any way you want. Like just go for it. Put on your favorite music and boogie on, baby. This is your chance to bring the energy through. It's the 20th day of the moon cycle of the 28 days is dance day. Yay.
is
Eh,
it the 28th already?
No, it's the 20th day of the 28th day cycle.
Oh, I don't know what that means, but
Well,
okay.
that means that the moon is 28 days, right?
I don't know. Okay. Dude,
Around,
like,
around, it goes 28, well, let's say 27 and a quarter or whatever it is, right?
listen, I
And
talked
on
to
the
Dad
20th,
about all
on the 20th day of that cycle is a dance day. It's a day of letting energy come through. All right,
right.
here is Lauren Simon.
Oh,
Hello, welcome to the Wellness Show. Hello, hello. Hello, you're live on the show.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Hi. So I was calling because I wake up in the morning with these throbbing hands, and I don't know how to. It takes like a couple hours for it to dissipate.
All right, so we're having a hard time hearing you. So did you say throbbing hands? You wake up in the morning with throbbing hands, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
throbbing hands.
Throbbing hands. Okay, what else is going on?
So they're like throbbing, like it's like pulsating pain.
Pulsating pain, yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Are you a healer?
I do energy work. Yeah.
Or do you do energy work with your hands?
No.
Then you should do energy work with your hands.
Tell her, tell me to hold her up.
That was nice.
That's like laying on your hands. So for example, if you had a knee that was wonky and needed some energy, you put your hand on your knee and send it energy, and that will help with the healing. So you can start with yourself and do those parts that need some healing. And Laura has some ideas here as well. She's holding up her hands.
Put her up so she can hear me.
Okay.
Lauren, can you hear me?
Yes.
So what I want you to do is I want you to put your hands together in a prayer. And then I'm gonna open them up for you, okay?
So put your hands together in a prayer form, and then she's going to give you some commands.
Anya katainia sia namanainia katalia namanainia sia nana katalia namanainia kutono ono sia namanainia sia namanainia katalia namanainia shikatana namanainia Amano no katonia namanainia shikatalia namanainia katana. Okay. Does she have ask her how she is with her heart chakra?
How are you with your heart chakra?
It's probably closed.
Probably closed. Well, let's open it up. Let me just check. On a scale of 0 to 100, with 100 being fully open, you're only 50%. So have you had a trauma in your life, near-death experience, loss of a loved one, somebody passed over?
Yes.
All right, who was it?
My son and my mother.
All right.
And my father.
And your father. And this is rather recent or what?
My mother was the most recent, like 5 years ago.
All right, so there's still trauma there. So let's clear that. So it would go something like this. I, Tyson Bannigan, in my holy name, on behalf of Loren Simon, who's
Lauren.
on this call,
Lauren Simon, yeah.
or anybody else who's listening to this call, clear any and all intrusions into their energy field from any and all sources. And I cut any karmic cords between there and their loved ones, so that the divine flow of energy is not restricted between them and those on the other side.
There it goes.
And I undertake this clearing throughout the multidimensional levels of reality, through all time, space, and dimensions, both known or unknown, through the matriarchal, patriarchal, soul family, star family, and family of origin. And I declare it so, so be it, it is done. So we're just going to check right now and see if your heart was able to receive that clearing. And it looks like to me, I don't know, Laura, it looks good to go. What is it like on your side?
And I felt it open up. I felt her heart. Boom.
Yeah. So welcome to the open heart world.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah,
Now
so
meditate
just know
on
that they're all well on the other side, and that you're here to do what you need to do, and that they're here on the other side to help you do what you need to do. Okay, so if you can take any grieving energy you have and put it into yearly love, loving them unconditionally, they can then meet you energetically and work with you, right?
Okay, thank you.
All right.
that the child, what was her child's name?
Just a minute, hang on. What was that?
What was her son's name?
What was your son's name?
Timothy?
Timothy. Ah, that's my eldest son, Timothy.
Timothy Simon?
Timothy Simon, is that his name? Yes.
Ask her how old he was.
How old was he?
18 months.
18 months.
Oh, honey. There we go. Let her know that her son is working with her.
Yeah, your son is working with you.
Okay.
Yeah, he was very fortunate. He had an agenda. He got here, he did what he needed to do, and he was out of here. Know that he fulfilled what he was here to incarnate with. But part of it is his connection with you as his mom, so that he can continue to work with you on the other side. So now you have a way to bridge both dimensions, this dimension and the other dimension, and through your hands, right? Through your hands and your heart, right?
From her son. Always give her son thanks before she does healing work.
Yeah, in actual fact, think of him when you do your healing work, and he'll come through your heart and your hands and help you. All right? All right, so he's part of your healing team. So start laying on those hands. All right, thanks for phoning in. All right, bye for now. So you too could be a healer. You too can get yourself clear and let the energy flow from your heart into your hands and then out through your hands to help yourself and other people by laying on hands. Pretty cool stuff. All right, we're talking about the divine marriage today. And so, yeah, so where do we start? Well, let's start at the upper level and let's talk about. I showed this picture the last time around before the internet sort of didn't help. So here is what the divine marriage looks like at the Father God level, or divine mother, divine father. And this is done, a painting was done by a friend of mine. I didn't actually know Al, but I met his wife, and he was painting the male part of this. And she came by and said, well, where's the female counterpart? So he took the paper and folded it in half when the paint was still wet, which gave him the impression of the divine feminine, and then painted it, which is sort of like the story of Adam and Eve, right? Like first there was Adam, and then out of Adam came Eve. And I don't know if that's a true story, but it's sort of interesting that one painting was then the mirror image of it, what created the second part of the painting, which is really important to think about, is one is a mirror image of the other, and that the real painting or the real job of being here on planet Earth is incomplete if those two aren't represented. So what I mean by that, I mean at the universal level, there's divine mother and divine father, and then maybe the source of all that is beyond gender, but certainly as we come into polarity, there has to be the feminine and the male principle. And the union of those two, which is the divine marriage, brings about the union of tranquility, peace, and the 0 point, both within the universal evolution of consciousness, but also within us. So that's at that level. So let's bring it down to the level of an avatar. So for every period of time on Earth is an avatar. So this is one of the avatars through India that I never met in person, but I do have an intimate connection with, and his name is Sai Baba. And I'm going to show you this picture of him. That's Sai Baba. I'll give you another picture of the book that's written by one of my friends here. Maybe this is a little clearer. That's Sai Baba with a big afro hairdo, and he's got a real sense of humor. He was a guy that was able to manifest jewels, like little eggs, and he would give them right into his hand, and he'd hand out his hand like this and give you an egg. So why am I talking about him? Because everybody that followed Sai Baba never understood that there was a divine feminine aspect to who he was. And that when he introduced her, and by the way, which is Amma, A-M-M-A, his followers got very upset because they felt that, they were following Sai Baba. Who is this woman? And not only who is this woman? This woman is already married, has a husband, and has children. So what is he doing as, an avatar, having a relationship, whether it's spiritual or non-physical or non-sexual, with a woman? And the point is that Sai Baba made it really, really clear in this book that he worked with my friend and allowed it to be sanctioned to be written, right? As he said, I've come to light the lamps of love in your hearts. And what he was saying is there's, at this time in the evolution of consciousness on the planet, an avatar cannot come to this planet to do the work without the divine feminine being there for him. And therefore, even if his disciples didn't understand that, he wanted them to clearly know. So it caused a great consternation in the group about who was this woman. She's still alive. She's a very powerful woman,
I saw
very divine feminine.
I met her.
Did you?
Yeah, in Illinois. I went and I went for a weekend with her, and Tyson, I was sitting in the audience, right? And we're praying and chanting, and these things come up from behind. She calls them forward, these spirits, and they went through me. And there were these like little ones that came first, like little spirits all outside, and then a big one that went through everyone through the room. Whoo! I was like, oh, we're meeting a real one here. And then we had to write down on the card what our prayer or whatever. And I went up and she prayed on me and gave all this stuff. And that was meeting her was amazing. Like the fact that you just brought her up, Amma, as she was amazing. I still pray to her and thank her. She sat in the woods or in India in the what I'll call the woods, right? The forest. She went away for 10 years and the people bring her clothing and food and take care of her and she just sits and meditates and is what she is, right? Which is this powerful being. She brings in these powerful beings and then she blesses people with, oh my gosh, it was amazing, amazing, amazing. And what I asked for, I have gotten on so many different levels. It's insane. And I didn't understand it at first because what I was asking for was like beyond beyond my even comprehension at the time. I had no idea why I was asking for what I was asking for. And it definitely is helping me in my work now, for sure, 100%.
Very
100%.
exciting. Very exciting. So another example along the same lines is Sri Aurobindo, and I don't know if people know about Sri Aurobindo's work, but he's really, well, what he's written is really what we're about to merge on this planet on universal light as we move into the higher dimensional levels, which
Mhm.
reading the Sophia energies, which is from J.J. Hurtak. Sophia is the divine feminine on the spiritual level. And Sophia, the energies there are really that when he talks about it, is he's saying that this is not that just Earth is graduating into this higher dimensional level of light, but the whole galaxy and the whole, all of creation is going through this evolution of consciousness. And we're part of the progenitors of that consciousness here on Earth, but we are also part of a much larger picture. And Sri Aurobindo's works are really talking about this time of transformation on this planet. He's on the other side now. But the reason I'm bringing him up is they created, actually, I'll talk about Divine Mother. A mother was, I think she was, where was she? I know that she had visions of Sri Aurobindo, and she was already married. I think she was somewhere in Europe and said to her husband, "I'm sorry, I love you, but I have to go be with Sri Aurobindo." And this is a very evolved husband. He says, "If that's what you need to do, my dear, I'll go with you to meet this man." And so they traveled by boat to meet Sri Aurobindo. And Mother worked with Sri Aurobindo until his death and her death, and was the divine feminine that anchored the energy. And together they created the Oroville International Community in India, where 40 different nations come together and live together on what it is to live a spiritual life. And it's an exciting place to be. I've worked in Oroville, helping do the environmental planning for the community. And the point is that he couldn't do the work that he was called to do, particularly in the latter part of his life, without having the divine feminine there. And in fact, in the latter part of his life, Mother ran the whole Oroville institution and the center where people came, and he was able to then retreat and go inward and to write his spiritual books and finish the work that he is here to leave this legacy that's available for us to read now. But without Mother available, he couldn't have done that work. So that's another example of, to get the work done on this planet, you have to have that sacred marriage between male and female. It's got nothing to do necessarily with a sexual relationship. It has to do with a harmonic vibrational frequency where one complements the other to get a body of work done. You have to, and not necessarily as your soulmate or your soul pattern or who you're married to. So I want to make that really clear. This is an energetic match that's really made in heaven, so to speak, that allows this work to get done on the physical plane.
Wow.
So that's that level. So let's move on to another level, and one that we understand too, and that is the divine marriage between Christ and Mary Magdalene, right? So
Mhm.
this is the example of what the energy is like when the two come together. You're creating the three, the divine feminine and divine masculine, thereby create the crucible or the womb, the universal womb, or the earthworm or the planetary womb to incubate into reality the next level of consciousness. Now, it
Mhm.
can be a child, but like a child, it can be anything that's wanting to be created, right? In physical world, it takes two to tango, so to speak, right? And to be able to manifest that. So I know that we were talking yesterday about, the sacred landscape, and we were talking about energy in the landscape. And so I held up a book at that point, if I can just find that book, where we had the large um, tower of power that was like a giant penis in the landscape, or the standing stones that are erect in the landscape, which are the male energy, right? That's bringing down the lightning flash, the electrical energy from the lightning down through the penis or through the standing stone, impregnating the womb of the earth, which then brings fungicity, or the growth, and allows the seeds to germinate and allows the crops to be fertile and the earth to be fertile. And so this sacred union between heaven and earth was something that our ancient ancestors were very well informed on. And when we create these standing stones and standing circles in order to bring the harvest this energy and to use it for the evolution not only of consciousness but to increase the fertility of their crops. So again, that's bringing it through sacred geometry into the landscape, right? So
Absolutely.
go ahead.
I said absolutely. I agree. It's just like fires, right? When the lightning comes down and starts the fire in the forest, it burns the forest down, and so that new growth can happen.
Yeah, yeah. The electrical energy, when if you look at, or if you know anything about electricity, wherever a wire goes through from negative to positive as it flows, or positive to negative, there's a donut of energy that's created around them, which is called a magnetic field, right? And so that magnetic field is the divine feminine. That's the womb.
Mhm.
That's where the impregnation of the seed into that womb allows manifestation to happen. So
Right.
if you want to birth an idea, you have to create the seminal, the main principal concept. It has to be focused, right? But then you have to have the receptivity, the divine feminine, to receive that and incubate it in a safe zone. And what that means is when you create something, you don't want to tell your uncle and your aunt and your second cousin about what you want to do. You want it to be still in that sanctuary, in that womb, so it could incubate, so it could have its own energy and be protected and flourish in that womb, and then it will be birthed on its own. Whereas if it's like planting a seed. You don't dig up the seed to see if it's growing. It needs to be of that stillness and that quiet. It needs to incubate for a certain period of time. So as above, so below. So if you look at what it takes to bring a child onto this planet, right? And of course, the higher dimensional energetic child is done through intention. So before having sex, the couple is holding in their mind's eye that interdimensional womb that allows this child at the highest level to come through the act of love and be in that divine creation in the womb of earth to then manifest into reality. So again, as above, so below. The more you line up with these different nested energies, the more energy you have to manifest onto the physical plane, right?
Mhm.
So that's why it's exciting that we'll be working with Divine Mother on Friday, doing universal abundance, because we're being asking the divine feminine to flow these energies through us. And I've just got permission to do this. Will be the first time on a call that we're being allowed to have divine mother not just run the energies, but actually allow us to install the energies. We get to install the energy. So if you've been doing the deep clearing protocol, you understand the first part is you clear what you don't want, and then you install what you do want. And now this time we're asking Divine Mother, we have permission from Divine Mother to actually install these energies and how to use them into our physicality. So that's really exciting.
And I highly recommend this class. I can't explain it to y'all, but there's a lot of energy around this, and it feels like
It feels like
sparkle.
heaven on earth to me.
It does. It's just really, really strong. So if you're out there and if you want to join us, please contact me, contact Tyson. Let's get you signed up because there's like, if you want to manifest some abundance in your life, come on into this class. Like, I feel very strongly about this. And I
It's a
want to
very
say,
exciting opportunity. Like I said, I've never before, and I can safely say this, on this planet, have we ever had permission to allow Divine Mother energies to be actually run, not just run, but actually being and able to be installed
mhm,
into the humans that listen to this. So my mother will actually run that through your biological, electrical, magnetic system and install those energies so that they run inside of you. And this is a great gift that we're allowed to be able to do. After running these energies for like 5 years nonstop, 4 hours a week, learning how to do this, this is a really major time of transformation where we're now, like I said, allowed to install them. So I'm quite excited about that, to be able to experience that myself, right?
when I first met Tyson, he was always very apprehensive to using the divine mother energies because he was like, you know, we have to have permission. We can't just go running out in the middle of the road and stop traffic because that's like, we can pretty much do that with what we do. So Tyson and I both have an understanding from spirit that we can't always do everything that we think that we want to do. We have to get permission. And so when I'm saying that divine mother is coming in for abundance, get your seat in this class today. I'm not kidding. Get it in because this is awesome. This is it, peeps. Come on.
Yeah, it's
I,
pretty exciting. I'm
I want
pretty
to say
excited
more
about it anyway.
Tyson. I want to
So
say
I
good
was
morning.
working on it this morning, getting the wording right, because like I said, we just have permission to actually change the wording in the original intention from running to installing and integrating those energies. So now this becomes an evolutionary step. You start with the deep clearing protocol. You then understand what the deep clearing protocol is all about, why those statements are important. The next step is you learn how to then install what it is that you do want, which are the I am in statements, right? And then once you learn how to do that, then you can work with divine mother, the divine feminine, and learn how to run these energies and be able to help other people get out of their own way as well. So these are integrated steps on the path back, the return path to enlightenment. This is really what this is about. I'm really interested in helping people experience full body enlightenment in this lifetime. I'm not saying that I'm there. I have glimmers of it here and now and whatever. But this is what this path is all about. This path is to clear your human mind consciousness out of the way so you can remember your divinity. Now, the exciting thing about that is we're going to talk about, because we're talking about the sacred divine marriage, and one of the principal divine feminine in the landscape or and through history and time immemorial is the divine feminine principle called Isis, right? She's been called Hathor. She's been called many, many different vibrational frequency. And in the time of Christ, it was Mary Magdalene. And Mary Magdalene comes from the lineage of Isis. Okay, so who is Isis and what is Isis all about? Well, she's the divine feminine that's been here since time immemorial. There is no one Isis. Just like, by the way, there is really no one Amma that we were talking about. There's multiple Ammas. Just like there isn't one Christ, there's multiple Christs. It's a state of consciousness. Just like there isn't one avatar, there's multiple avatars, one for each period of time on the evolution of this planet. So Isis has been in very many, many different forms. And what Isis is about is that imagine the state of consciousness where all whole, sound, and complete, we're already enlightened. And you make the intention that you would like to, there's something more. So now you would like to make the evolution back to enlightenment by experiencing what it is to not be enlightened. Okay? That is duality. That's the path that you and I are on. Is we are already enlightened. We've already been there, but we've chosen to take the path where we lose our connection to source, can't remember who we are, and in the process rediscover our sacred connection, our divinity, and our enlightenment, and the path back home to the light. And so Isis was part of the initiatory process. And part of her role was in the sacred divine temple, was to initiate the male at the time of puberty, when he was then taught about divine sex. And the reason that was taught is because that was not just procreation, but it was the fundamentals of creation, right? That a man's job was to have the intention to manifest something into reality, but he had to have that consort or the divine feminine to work with, to incubate it and bring it into reality. Otherwise, it couldn't be manifested onto the physical plane. That's what Isis is all about. And that's why Mary Magdalene was trained and was part of this lineage, right? So many people understand the divine marriage from the feminine part aspect are part of the lineage of Isis.
And these people would come to these women to become initiated in the sacred sex act.
Exactly. And this was, this is why biblically it was misinterpreted as Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. No, she was not a prostitute. She was an initiator. She was a progenitor of a higher level of consciousness. You couldn't achieve the higher level of consciousness unless you had some divine feminine like for the Isis lineage. So Isis is also seen in the temple. So this is the rainbow of the integration of all the chakras and being enlightened. But if you were coming into the temple of Isis, I got my two fingers here, there would be two pillars. One would be white and one would be black. And Isis would be veiled. You'll see this on the tarot card. Isis is veiled and sitting on a throne. And she would say, you have a choice. Do you want to go the path where sex is something that's exciting you and it's the thrill of the chase, right? And it's just sex? Or are you interested in the divine marriage? The choice is yours. And you had to make that choice. And she was veiled because the true secrets of what she was teaching, you had to get past that human mind consciousness of sex as just an act for pleasure. You had to understand that there was a higher dimensional level to it, or she would not let you enter the temple. You'd go down another different path. That's why she was veiled. And it's also, part of the symbolism that why the woman with the scales for justice is also cloaked as well, right? Because she doesn't want to be caught in the human domain of making a decision. She wants to do it from the upper level of universal law, not man-made law, right? She wants to balance the scales of justice. So again, the divine feminine as part of the justice, the true justice, right, on the earth. And when we just allow justice to be a male concept, we miss the whole point, because then justice becomes a way to justify those that are in power and to keep them in power. And it's got nothing to do with universal law anymore, which is what our justice system is about now. It's really a method to keep those that are in power in power. So there you are. That's what the divine marriage is all about. And it's just as relevant today as it was in the beginning of time. And of course, then there's the divine marriage inside of yourself and coming to resolution between those two energies that are running in you. So there's the Ida and there's the Pingala. There's a divine masculine and divine feminine in your parasympathetic nervous system. They're like snakes. They're like Kundalini snakes. So you have a chakra here, then you have one snake curve over like this, and the other snake comes over and curves like this. So now you have the figure 8 on top of the figure 8 on top of the figure 8 coming up the spine, exactly. And when you have a penis inside of the vagina, then you're running that energy from the male to the female and from the female to the male. So now those two snakes are intertwined, right? So the male energy is coming up one, not only up his, but up his feminine counterpart, and the divine feminine's coming up hers as well as his. So now we have a sacred marriage. And what those two snakes, when they come together here in the pineal, there's actually a secretion that happens, right? As the snake, we see it as venom, but it's actually a secretion that gives you an endorphin in the brain. It causes a higher level of consciousness, not just ejaculation and a feeling of ecstasy. This is a much more permanent aha, universal point of enlightenment, right? So it's a sacred act, and it's teaching you one of the royal roads to enlightenment. Okay. And of course, there's a whole body of information which is called Tantra, which comes from the Eastern tradition about how do you do that. And of course, many of these methods have been corrupted and used to control and do all sorts of things. And, even all of the sexual abuse that's going on, and pornography and sexual slaves and everything is trying to co-opt that energy and use it for negative intentions, right? So
Well,
harvesting the energy from females or energies from children by scaring them, and then using those secretions, those endorphins that are come from fear, in order to light yourself up and give you an intergalactic orgasm, is to miss the point, because whoever does that doesn't understand the laws of karma, right?
right.
They just don't understand that when you do that ritualistic abuse with the divine marriage, with those energies, and try and then harvest them through fear, or by the death of another human being in a
Mhm.
satanic ritual, has got grave consequences to your own evolution of consciousness. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
But this
But
is
it's
also
important to bring that up, that the reversal of this is just as powerful as the full on aspect of it, right? So you're going to talk about that? You're holding up the book?
no, I said it's nothing to mess with. Like this is sacred.
Yeah,
That's the point. Like don't take what it is that we're saying and just go out and do it. Like you have to understand it and study it. That's what we're just bringing it to the forefront so that you can look, read the book that he showed, the ISIS book, if you want to show it again, and read this book and and educate yourself before you try these kind of energies.
yeah. And if you pursue or Google Tom Kenyon, he's he says, I don't know why Mary Magdalene wanted me to write this book, or why she used me as a channel. He says, I'm a 40-year-old puffy male guy, right? And why would she choose a masculine person to channel through to write this book? But he says, I feel very, very blessed. And not only did he channel Mary Magdalene, but he also, because he's got an incredible voice, and he can chant and sing 5 overtones. When he does this and calls in the angels, and by chanting, they literally appear. So Sarah and I, prior to being spiritually married, went and visited, or went to one of his workshops in Seattle on Mary Magdalene, and uh, experienced the experience of what he was talking about, but also what it feels like to have the angelic kingdom come in when he chants it. It's just absolutely powerful. So if you can get yourself a CD, a Tom Kenyon, or a soundtrack, and better yet, if you can find the one on sacred marriage, which actually takes you through that picture that you were showing, it actually gives you a guided meditation to activate the Kundalini that you have. I'll bring about those 2 snakes, the Ida and Pengali, and bring them up the Shishumi for enlightenment. So because we talked about, and we're just going to open this up, don't forget you can phone in toll free in North America, 1-866-369-7464. I just got one more thing I'd like to say, and that's bringing it back into the sacred landscape that we were talking about. So, as above, so below. So this womb, this creation, this act of creation, the womb and the divine masculine, is in the landscape where you live as well. So for me, thy sacred mountain is called Ida, and Ida is divine feminine, Ida and Pengali. It's one side of the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sacred mountain in our landscape is part of the parasympathetic nervous system of North America, or the Turtle Island. And of course, the Shishumi, or the central nervous system, is the Rockies, right?
Mhm.
So we're on the parasympathetic, which is Mount Hood, Mount Baker, Mount Shasta, Mount Ida, to run up and down on the parasympathetic line, with the Rocky Mountains in the center. And then there will be another whole energy stream for the Pengali, which I actually don't really understand or know. So if you're in that part of the landscape living on east of the Rockies, then it behooves you to understand, well, where's the masculine line? Where does that run in the landscape? I know the divine feminine like the back of my hand. I know the central nervous system, but I don't know the divine masculine in the North American landscape. And then one more thing is, because we talked about holons within holons, or watersheds of having their own energy, that is a replication of what the energy are in North America. What it means is when I do ceremony here, we're one of 32, the Shuswap where I live is one of 32 major regions for North America. So when I do ceremony at the medicine wheel here, that activates the heart chakra through Mount Ida, the heart chakra of North America is activated as well. So it's like nested Ukrainian dolls, one within the other. So when you understand the sacred marriage in the landscape, you can bring abundance to your bioregion, to where you live. And last but not least, when I tune into Mount Ida, she says, well, if you work with me, I can create heaven on earth where you live, which is the same covenant that you have if you work with the landscape where you live. If you make that sacred marriage, if you understand that sacred marriage in the landscape, you too can create heaven on earth where you live. So this is something that you can do at the local level. And in actual fact, that's where it should be. It should go from the local watershed out bioregionally and go out that way. This is not something we ask government to impose, or we need a United Nations, or we need somebody in control to make this happen with laws and dictates and whatever. No, this is you being one in a sacred relationship inside of yourself, in a divine marriage with you in the landscape where you live, in harmony, that you make that relationship with the elementals and the angels to create heaven on earth. Okay, I'm done. That's it. That's basically the sacred divine marriage and all the different attributes. And of course, there's much, much more. This is just an overview. If you want to study more, then join the Boots on the Ground Geomancy class, which is primarily focused on how to work in the landscape, how to work with angels, how to know where the heart chakra is where you are, how to do ceremony, how to create a sacred site, what are standing stones all about, and on, how to work with fairies in your garden, and all sorts of exciting things. So if that's something that you would like to learn, come and join that class. And if you can't afford full price, which is $333 US a month, you can join and watch the videos that we've done in the class at half price at $165, and join us every Tuesday, last Tuesday of the month, for question and answer. So there's two ways you can participate. So money does not need to be an obstacle. If this is something you want to learn, come and join it. It's my favorite class of them all, because I get to play with the angels and the elementals. All right, do we have any questions out there in question land?
We did, but I took care of it. They said there was, let's see.
Well, while Laura's looking, don't forget, you can phone in toll free in North America, 1-866-369-7464, and receive a reading or a clearing, or let us help you get out of the way, or ask any questions about dowsing or energy healing. We're here for you. And the lines are now open. We got about 10 minutes to go, so there's room to do some clearing.
There we go. So Wendy Raymond asks, I want to ask about my oldest daughter, Jenna Raymond. Her throat closed up and